that waiting room, and I heard, were you wanting to reschedule these or something in October? I caught the tail end.
No, I was just mentioning to Raphael that because of scheduling some appointments on the days the council is dark, at least the way we're scheduled on the calendar, that there may be I might have an interruption in my ability to attend, but I'm not anticipating that. But when I get the yearly calendar of council meetings, sometimes I'll schedule things on Tuesdays that are indicated as dark. Okay. And so I haven't double checked it because we haven't confirmed exactly when we're going to start the change, but at the end of the day, it's actually kind of good to group our meetings together. So using a Tuesday when we're already committed to a council meeting actually makes sense.
Oh yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess let's kick this off. It's 8:30 on Thursday morning. Welcome everyone. I call the meeting to order. The Downtown Subcommittee will be conducting today's meeting in a virtual setting using the Zoom webinar. Committee members and staff are participating from remote locations and/or practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting as noted on the city's website and as noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak during item 3, public comment, or during public comment hearing items will be able to do so by utilizing the raise hand feature of their hand or pressing *9 on their phone. They then will be given the ability to address the committee. Okay, Madam Secretary, can you take the roll?
Yes, so let the record reflect that all members are present with the exception of Member Fleming.
Okay. We'll move on to item 2, public comments. This is an opportunity for any member of the public wishing to address the committee on matters not listed on the agenda but are within the subject matter of the jurisdiction. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Why don't we start with live public comment? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak at this time?
We have no raised hands at this time, nor do we have any voicemail or email public comment for this meeting.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3, new business. First order of business is item 3.1, the Railroad Square Association Community Benefit District Update. Rafael Rivero, Economic Development Specialist, Chris Wilson, Executive Director, Historic Railroad Square Association.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and I'm delighted to see you all this morning. And good morning, Chair Tibbet and Councilmember Sawyer. So I usually introduce Chris Wilson for this, and then I add on a few updates. But the association held a board meeting on Thursday, July 15th, where there were quite a few updates, including a presentation by our city staff member regarding the general plan update. It's quite a long presentation. But the board got some good information out of that. And other than that, I'm just going to turn it over to Chris, and then I'll fill in where some of the things that I get to work on as a member of some of the committees that I participate on. Chris?
Thanks. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you, Raphael. Well, the Railroad Square is busy. We've got visitors and shoppers and diners, and it's been really great to see people out strolling. The restaurants are busy. There's kind of a feeling guardedly optimistic and hoping we can continue supporting our businesses with what's happening with COVID right now. There does seem to be an uptick of graffiti throughout our area, most of visible in the old brick building of the cannery. And we've started a program to offer support to our property owners by providing paint and assistance for removal. Unfortunately, as some of you probably already know, we can't address the brick, as any painting or trying to remove can cause damage to that integrity of the brick. So we've been in conversations with the cannery owners to discuss alternate ways of covering, but everything is very expensive. The homeless and the transients remain an issue, but we are seeing some positive results since we implemented the dedicated all-night security. And we very much appreciate the support of the Santa Rosa Police and the city staff who work with us in continuing to clear encampments and the greenway and keep an eye on things down there. We continue to focus on cleaning up the district with additional street maintenance and general weeding and street clearing. Thank you, Raphael, for helping to coordinate volunteers for us to join some of our board members to paint the bollards along our streets. And we have another bollard painting session scheduled for the 17th. And we really hope to have that project finished by the 17th. Or by the end of the month. So if you're driving around down there, you'll see shiny, new looking bollards, little dressing up of the area. Depot Park is in real need of some attention. And we've met with Tim Finnegan to get in the queue for some very badly needed tree trimming there. Raphael's been coordinating meetings with city staff to address not only the tree trimming, but also to look at getting the lighting in the park working again. We're hoping, we hope to identify the scope of getting the electrical work done to remove the old tree lights that are hanging down and replace those by wrapping the trees similar to what you have downtown. The project committee has met with Tara Thompson and Jen Santos to try to revive that art in public places proposal for Depot Park that started some years ago, I believe before the 2017 fire. We've made some suggested changes to that proposal and really hope to begin to move that one forward. Of course, we would love to see the depot open again to help promote the sense of place for Railroad Square, to welcome our visitors, and especially now with people out more and the train, more runs with the train and people coming off the train to have a sense of welcome. We've also been getting bids on removing and replacing trees on 5th Street, which also involves replacing old concrete around the trees and sidewalks, and come to conclusion that the cost is just too great for us to commit to such a large project right now. So the plan is to start trimming the trees on 4th Street, since that's the most visible, and replace the old wine barrels with new planters to kind of give a uniform, more colorful look and update the street. And that would also be on 5th Street and in the area. So we continue to work on the wayfinding signage plan and hope we can be a collaborative project with the city that would help cut costs and kind of enhance a connection between Railroad Square and downtown. I really want to thank our Mayor Rogers, or acknowledge him for taking time to walk Railroad Square with us last week to give us the opportunity to discuss the vision and projects that the association hopes to see in the district and how we might partner with the city to help support our merchants down there. Good brighter side even, we're hosting a historic Railroad Square summer music stroll and student art show on Sunday, August 22nd and Sunday, September 26th, partnering with CHOPS Teen Club. Student artists will be showing their work in Depot Park, and local street musicians will be spaced along 4th Street and in various areas in the heart of Railroad Square. Thanks to Claire Nordy, the city's water efficiency program will be displaying information along with a water music performance in Depot Park. I'm very curious of really what that water performance is. It's a musical performance in Depot Park. And then on September 26th, the Humane Society is partnering with us to bring information and a pet kissing booth. We'll see about the kissing. And we're looking forward to hosting a real family-friendly Sunday afternoon activity for the whole community. The Branch Line is a new cafe in Mercantile that's planning to open on August 20th with a soft opening. That's where the Flying Goat was located at the base of 4th Street. I think that's going to be a great anchor, having Aroma on one side of Depot Park and the Branch Line on the other, and really perfect location for greeting people coming in on the train. If all goes well with COVID restrictions, we hope to bring back the holiday carriage rides and some holiday events. So we're working hard to clean things up, make Railroad Square more vibrant, bring events back, and encourage people to enjoy all there is in our little heart of Santa Rosa. That's my report.
Thanks, Chris. Councilmember Sawyer, do you have any questions for Chris or the staff?
No questions, just many thanks for continuing to trudge along to make things better and highlight the activities and the environment, which is a very special part of our city. So thank you for all of the effort of the organization and the greater organization as well in realizing how important Railroad Square is to the rest of our downtown.
Thank you. It's my honor. I love it down there.
Let's take public comment on item 3.1. Madam Secretary, do you see any members of the public wishing to speak?
We have no raised hands at this time.
Raphael?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's a great pleasure working with the association, and anything that I can do to continue helping improve the area. The area is already very improved as it is. If you ride your bike or take a stroll on a Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, the place is a buzz. There's people eating, walking, getting off the train. So it's very exciting. And the only quick update I have is that we still don't have an update on the opening of the visitors center. I have spoken to Brad, and it looks like it might remain closed for the rest of the year, but I'll provide an update during next month's meeting. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Raphael. All right. We took public comment. There were no comments. Any final comments from council? Okay. Thank you, Raphael, and thank you, Chris. I ditto what John said. Let's move to item 3.2, Downtown Action Organization Update. Cadence Hinkle Allenson, Executive Director, Santa Rosa Downtown District.
Thank you, Chair Tibbetts. Good morning to you and to Councilmember Sawyer. It's nice to see everyone again. It feels like it's been a while since we've been together. I want to start just by saying thank you to all of the city staff who've been supporting the district this summer, Economic Development, Parks, Public Works, Parking District, the DET. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but everyone really continues to be great partners in all the activities and events we've been putting on. So we're grateful for the support. I also want to specifically say thank you to Council for extending the garage parking incentives through year end. Our business owners are very excited about that and grateful to have that in place through the end of 2021. And also an additional thank you to Mayor Rogers and Councilmember Sawyer for your involvement and public comments in the supervisors meeting. Was that just last week or the week before, about the new Civic Center? We are incredibly excited. This is fantastic news for downtown. I'm really grateful for your advocacy and involvement to make that happen. So thank you. I'll start with a little bit of good news. I think we have a couple new businesses that have opened since the last time we spoke. Sushi Rosa has opened on 4th Street and has Falafel Hut, which is in the old Gerard's Paella space. We have, I think, 3 more restaurants opening relatively soon. And I know there's a few other projects that are kind of creeping along. So hopefully we'll have some updates on those as well. It's been really, really fantastic having the DET spending more time downtown. We're seeing a lot more presence from them, quick response times when there's issues, and it's made a big difference, especially because the homeless issues have continued to increase over the past month, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. So with what's happening at Sam Jones Hall, we've just seen a much larger population than usual. We've continued to see out of town folks coming through. So having the DET focused more on the downtown area has really come at kind of the perfect time. We continue to get a lot of reports and complaints about the behavior of the homeless population and the aftermath of it. It's having a pretty negative impact on existing businesses as well as potential new tenants. It feels like a lot of the larger issues we're trying to solve and tackle are also tied to figuring out how to better manage this situation. So it really remains kind of front and center for us. There's a lot going on downtown right now, and trying to bring in some new markets and events to the square. And we had someone visiting last week. We were having a meeting on the square while we had an incident between one of the homeless people and our local bike gang, which has become kind of an additional ongoing issue that we're grateful for the DET to be supporting. It was violent and it was very upsetting. And the fact that we had someone who was visiting to look at Railroad Square for a potential large event, or Railroad Square, sorry, it's not that early in the morning, to look at Courthouse Square for a large event. It was bad timing, but it's also kind of just the reality of being downtown right now. We're hoping that the bike kids will disperse a little bit as school starts, but their behavior has been aggressive and rude. They're causing problems for our business owners. They're very dangerous. They ride right into traffic. They kind of play chicken with cars. They antagonize people walking down the street. I mean, it's not all of them, but when there's 3 kids in a group of 20 who are really causing problems, and there's 20 kids surrounding them, it does feel very intimidating and make people uncomfortable. So it's just been an added challenge this summer, as we're grateful the kids are outside and having a good time, but the behaviors become increasingly concerning. So moving on to what our committees have been up to, really actively trying to support all aspects of the downtown. I think everyone knows that our ad hoc group worked really hard to try and help encourage the supervisors to select downtown as a location, and they're hoping to remain involved in the process as the plans move forward, and really help as much as possible to make the transition to downtown seamless and easy for the county. Our business development ad hoc committee has been working on a sales deck to promote downtown as a place to bring new business, and hopefully we'll have that done by the year end. But working with some of our great volunteers to help make that happen. Our design and improvement committee has been talking through a variety of projects, and including potentially installing some additional lighting on 4th Street. We're also, which is a bit of a challenge because the lighting that we have installed already is continually vandalized, and it's not inexpensive to fix. So just another one of the issues that we're facing, which is trying to beautify and then dealing with the vandalism that occurs downtown and having to manage and cover the cost of that. It does limit what we can do moving forward. We still have plans to remove and plant trees later this year. I think our situation is a little easier than Railroad Squares because we don't have the concrete work that needs to be done. But we are very cognizant of the fact that we are in a drought. It takes a lot of water to get trees going. So we're waiting until we have a little bit of a better weather report, hopefully in the less hot months, maybe with some rain, to make it easier for us to do that without kind of being irresponsible in the community, since it is, some of the trees need to be removed because they're dead, but it really is a beautification project. And then finally, our community engagement committee, which is actually meeting later today, but they've been focusing on Open and Out. We raised over $40,000 to put everything on this summer. So a big thanks to Sonoma Clean Power, who sponsored our movie nights. We had 4 of those over the course of July. I think we probably had 125 to probably 225 every night. So it was a pretty good attendance on the square. Really nice to see people coming downtown with families and kind of braving what were very cold evenings and windy evenings to enjoy the movie. And then also Poppy Bank took on our presenting sponsor. So they've really enabled us to put all of the event on. We still have music 3 days a week. We have 2 different markets that have been in the square, and then we've got 2 more coming up in the fall. We had the Downtown Showdown last week, which was a bartender battle between local restaurants, which was a lot of fun. People really got a kick out of that. We also have bingo going on. The last day is Monday, so we've got great prizes to give away for everyone who's participating. You can pick up bingo cards from any of the businesses that have bingo signs in their window. We've also been hosting some fitness classes and have one final event coming up in September, an end of summer block party where we're going to be bringing in bands and entertainers and encouraging our merchants and restaurants to bring everything out onto the sidewalk and do fun specials for the community. So working on kind of finalizing plans for that at the same time as getting ready for our Halloween event as well. We've done a bit of advertising in the PD and online and using social media, but most of the funds have really been invested in the actual events on the square. We did a little bit of beautification too, just temporary stuff. We put some colorful lights in on the 500 block. So those are solar powered. We'll be able to take them down and put them back up every summer. So that was a fun little addition. That block remains closed. It's going to be closed until the permanent parklet program goes into place, which I think is still on track for the fall. And then as soon as that is finalized and our businesses have determined if they're going to have the permanent spaces, that street is going to reopen to traffic. Yeah, so it's been a busy summer. And as I said, we're starting to talk about our Halloween event, which is going to be on Friday, October 29th. We're going to have a DJ, costume contest, trick-or-treating at the businesses, possibly a movie and some carnival activities. We're going to finalize all of that later today. So I'll look forward to sharing details about that in September. And then we are also moving forward with a synthetic ice rink for the square. I would say we're about 90%. I'll give us 95% ready to go with that project. It'll probably operate for about 8 weeks from mid-November through early January. That's going to be part of the Chamber's Winter Lights event. We've got the actual Winter Lights tree lighting that's going to happen again. That's the same date it's always been, Friday after Thanksgiving. And then we'll have hopefully two kind of craft and art markets taking place over the course of the Winter Lights season as well. And then I've got my fingers crossed that with the ice rink, we'll have a variety of ice performances too. So I think it'll be really fun and festive. We've started talking to some of our partners who volunteered with us before and supported us. And I think we've got some fun plans coming into place for both Halloween and the holiday season too. So lots going on downtown. And I've seen some of you out and about, and I'm hoping that we'll kind of start to be able to keep things going as they are now. I know as Chris mentioned, it's a little bit tentative at this time, but I think we've got a lot of good enthusiasm, and hopefully we can just keep encouraging the community to come down and creating events that are interesting and engaging for them too. I think that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Cadence. Any questions from council and staff? I'm going to include Raphael in this, if that's all right.
I don't have any questions, just congratulations, Cadence, on all the people that are involved in continuing all of these activities in the face of challenges in doing it downtown. There's a lot going on, and that's what it takes for a successful downtown. So excellent work, keep up the good work, and keep the faith. Things will, the community will ultimately start to discover, if they haven't already, all those things going on downtown. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll echo some of that as well. Yeah, Cadence, I mean, it's beyond belief everything you've been able to accomplish, along with your very small staff and your volunteers and your committees. All I hear about is positive things regarding downtown. So good job.
Thanks, Raphael. Appreciate that.
Okay, let's turn to public comment for item 3.2. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak at this time? I should say that if you're calling in by Zoom, use the raise hand feature, or if by phone, *9.
We do have a caller. It is caller 0897. If you could hold just one moment while I pull up the timer for you. caller 0897, if you would like to unmute, you will have 3 minutes.
Morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. This is Bernie from California Luggage. And I just wanted to circle back to the bike issue. Courthouse Square seems to be a magnet for the bike kids as well as for skate kids. And it's not uncommon to see skateboarders using the square furniture for some of their props and stunts. And I'm just wondering what the ordinances are, and certainly enforcing them, because would maybe be impossible without a permanent, babysitting enforcement officer. But what are the ordinances prohibiting or allowing skating and biking in the square? That's a general question for you, Cadence, or Sergeant Wolf, or anybody who might know.
So Bernie, we can't engage in a back and forth during public comment, but we can get back to you.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Thank you.
And and through the mayor or our chair, we will have, under the public safety update, Jeff Travers coming up next. He may or may not have information on what we can and cannot do regarding the square on the next item.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Secretary, do you see any other public comment at this time, either live or recorded?
We have no additional raised hands and no voicemails or emails for this item either.
Okay. I guess I'll bring it back now to the subcommittee. John, any last questions or comments? No? Okay. I guess I will ask Officer Travers, if you are listening, could you help address Bernie's question about ordinances that exist that could prohibit skateboarding or bicycling on the square?
Absolutely. So we do have ordinances that prohibit you from skateboarding, riding, throwing a ball. There's a lot of ordinances there. No pets. But what we've tried to do is just balance enforcement and education, especially since there are a lot of those kids who are trying to follow the rules. We have a handful of troublemakers that, want to instigate and ride into traffic. And so what we've been trying to do is just go out and talk with them and create those contacts and relationships. And it seems like when we make our contact, let's just say it's on a Tuesday afternoon, they'll just clear out. They know we're there. They know we've talked to them. They're pretty adept on kind of leaving when we're there. So going forward, we're talking with traffic, and we're going to try to devise a strategy to maybe single out those who are our problem makers, and then find a way to address their behavior with their parents. So that is something we're working on. But it puts us in a weird spot because we don't want to put ourselves in a position where now we're chasing down, a juvenile on a bike, and he gets hit by a car, or he falls off his bike and gets hurt. And then, we've put ourselves in a position where that someone's gotten hurt over an infraction, right? So it's kind of a delicate matter for us as far as enforcement, especially with the current political climate. But we are talking with traffic. We do have what I think is a pretty good idea. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to implement that, and we'll be able to get some of the agitators held responsible for some of these dangerous behaviors, especially going in and out of traffic and the fighting and things like that. So we're aware of it. We're working on what we think is going to be a sustainable approach towards them, and hopefully, like Candace said, when we get back to school, we'll see less, the crowd size at least go down a bit.
Awesome. Thanks, Officer Travers. Appreciate that update. Raphael, do you have a question or a
Sure,
comment?
yes, if I may real quick, yes, there is an ordinance that applies to just the downtown, and it prohibits bicyclists and skateboarders to be riding their skateboard and bike on downtown city sidewalks. And I'm not so sure if it includes the square, There is some signage, which is a little outdated or old, spread out through some areas of downtown. You sometimes see it, you sometimes don't. They're very small, but it does exist. So I don't have the number of that particular ordinance in front of me, but we do. It does exist.
Thank you, Mr. Rivero. I'll just make a quick comment on the bicyclists and the skateboarding stuff. Officer Travers, speaking for myself, I appreciate the approach that you're taking. I don't think that, hot pursuits should be occurring over an infraction, especially kids being kids. That said, I will be paying more attention to what their impact on downtown is. So I think for now, if you could keep doing what you're doing, trying to observe and identify who your problem folks are and just approaching them carefully is probably the way to go. And if you can engage their parents, even better. But if you could continue to keep us updated on this, we don't want it to grow into an issue. And speaking in defense of the DAO and Cadence and some of the other people who have observed this, I have too, sitting downtown and seen some of the chicken stuff going on. I can see myself doing that as a kid, but I am afraid that, one of those kids could get hurt that way too. So we obviously have to be cognizant of that. Councilmember Sawyer.
Thanks, Jack. I became involved in a part of this, and I didn't realize how organized it was. I thought it was just a few kids kind of riding in and out of traffic and being just kind of irresponsible, because I thought I was going to be hit. And then someone on a bicycle, they hit your car, they're not injured, they may not even fall down, and then they're gone. And so there is a public safety issue, of course, connected to this behavior. The question, of course, is being able to approach the perpetrator, and by the time anyone of authority is there, they're gone. But I was not aware that it was more organized, or now it appears that this wasn't just a one-time shot that I experienced, that it is more organized, and that it is some bad players that are producing some pretty intimidating behavior. So it does give me pause, and I appreciate the police department's awareness of it. And also Cadence, your organization's awareness of it at all. I just said this is news to me that it's so organized. Thank you.
Thanks, John. One more comment from me. I suspect, Officer Travers, if you could slap 1, 2, or 3 of them with a pretty steep infraction, their parents will deal with it, and then the rest of those kids will get the message. So hopefully that's the way it can go. But go ahead.
Well, some of them, some of it is like Sawyer said, Councilman Sawyer, there's some misdemeanors that are occurring when they're going in and out of traffic, and some of that could be considered reckless, behavior. And so obviously I don't want anybody to get in trouble, but I do feel like if we can get to a position where someone's held accountable, I feel like it's going to spread throughout that group, and they may find more appropriate places like the skate park and areas that are built for that kind of thing. So our approach, I think, is going to be pretty good. I think we have a pretty good idea. And like I said, we're really hoping the parents, because I'm sure a lot of them are unaware of how dangerous some of the stuff is, doing the wheelies, going in and out of traffic in front of cars, going the opposite way. Like it's some of the stuff's really, really, really dangerous. And we want to try to get a handle on it before someone gets hurt. So we are working on it. And I look forward to having some kind of update in future meetings.
Thanks, Officer Travers. Appreciate you. With that said, let's move on to your update, item 3.3, public safety update.
Downtown enforcement recently did make a change. We shifted some of our encampment responsibilities around the city to putting our teams back downtown. I feel like we are seeing a really big improvement in just the amount of hang-arounds that were there. We've been doing a lot of citations and arrests, especially at Comstock Mall. We've had an uptick of people there, so we're addressing problems there. It looked like the subjects from Triangle Park were going to try to settle a new encampment at Fremont Park, but we were able to kind of get a handle on that, specifically through narcotic arrests and violation of probations and some of the behaviors we don't want so near a school and a church and a restaurant, and there's residential there. So we've made a lot of ground there this last 2 weeks. So we're going to keep our focus downtown, and I feel like the effort's going to pay off for us making this switch from encampments to refocusing on downtown.
Great. Thank you so much. Councilmember Sawyer, do you have any questions? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Rivero, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't. I thought maybe you also wanted to hear an update on the sideshows and some surveillance matters. And quickly, just to go back to the whole bicycle thing, there's also California state law requiring that the kids, even if they're at the age of under 18, required to wear a bicycle helmet. So they can also be cited for something like that as well. So, well, on surveillance, real quick, I do have just a brief update. I did speak to our IT director, Eric McHenry, and currently the city doesn't have an existing policy regarding surveillance. However, there's been some efforts in the past to bring such policy to the council for review and potential approval. This goes back to 2006, where there was an interest to expand the surveillance program throughout the city, but mainly in public areas. So this is definitely an item that we could add on to the agenda for a future meeting and have further discussion and invite our IT director. The way it works is that the cameras are configured and not monitored, but configured and installed and controlled by the IT team, but they are purchased by the various departments here throughout the city. And then in terms of monitoring, it's a responsibility of those departments to do the monitoring. So again, like I said, it's definitely a topic that we could expand on and continue the discussion, and perhaps go back and revisit some of the work that was done back in 2006 with our good friend Brian Farrell, who was assistant city attorney at the time, and then some other work that was research and eventually put together in some memos and such.
Speaking for myself, if that research has already been done and a lot of the legwork has been put in, is there a presentation that was created back in 06 that could be brought? I think the next appropriate step would be to bring that presentation to this subcommittee before moving it to council. I'm not averse moving it to council, assuming Councilmember Sawyer still wants to. He brought this item. But I'd almost like to have the presentation here if possible, and also get input from our police officers as well about how this could help or hurt their work. I think we got some input from Sergeant Wolf at our last meeting, but I'd be curious to see how this could complement their efforts downtown. Councilmember Sawyer?
No, I totally agree. And as I remember, given that I was around at that time, the ACLU had some issues around cameras. But given the when I heard there was vandalism on the lights in the square, that's disturbing to me. I mean, I think that there is definitely a role that that cameras can play, and I think that concept would gain support for the council. But putting it before this committee would be a great idea, so we can give them a fairly comprehensive recommendation, so that we are, we're prepared to answer their questions. I think that would be a great idea, Jack, so that we, kind of vet it in this group first, get input from the DAO, and then and then move potentially after comments from the police department, moving to the council for a recommendation, because it will probably, at least it did before, generate a fair amount of conversation. Whether that would be the case now, given we now have a new square that we are looking to protect, and we have a higher incidence of unfortunate behavior by some of our unhoused population. So the landscape has changed, and I think it would be valuable to have that conversation again.
And thank you, Mr. Rivero, for actually looking into that and bringing that back. I think it would be great to get that presentation if you can get your hands on it.
Yes, I'll circle back to Mr. McHenry and brief him on this outcome and see what we can do, and then eventually itemize the item, and then hopefully provide that presentation. So yes, it's an interesting topic. So
terrific, thank you. And you said you had an update on the sideshows as well?
Oh no, I do not. So
okay.
That was, for Sergeant Wolf, who isn't here this week, but I thought Officer Travers was going to provide an update on sideshows, perhaps.
Yeah, so I did pull data. I had our analyst pull data on just traffic complaints for the entire beat of 9. And we had a very low amount. I think we had 4 calls for service that were traffic related. One was a traffic accident. One was a DUI, and we had a suspicious vehicle. And then we had a be on the lookout. So we didn't have any reports of any sideshow activity in the square and even in the immediate downtown area, at least June 20th through today. I had her put the report yesterday. So if it is occurring, people aren't reporting it. I haven't gotten any feedback from the businesses that it's been an issue recently. So we'll keep an eye on it. But at this point, I don't have any information or indication that it's occurring downtown at any regular interval.
Thanks, Officer Travers. We did bring it up as a topic of discussion here because it was either Chris or Cadence had brought it up, and I had been downtown and thought, I've seen it happen twice downtown, but it became more of a concern of this committee. Also, just as it pertains to the wider city, we're hearing about all these police resources kind of getting dispatched over to Roseland, where there's been a lot over the last few months. A lot of the residents over there are complaining. So even though it's somewhat outside of the purview for us to opine on what's going on in Roseland, we still wanted to try to put some meat on the bones of an ordinance that would help, I guess, reduce police resources to sideshows and kind of increase public reporting on it. The idea was along the lines of a reward system for somebody who captured the image of a license plate and sent it into the police department, or a video of it happening, because everybody is taking videos from what I can tell when these start occurring. So creating financial assessment for public reporting and then police follow-up. So when we spoke with Sergeant Wolf, he said it's very hard to enforce these because when you arrive on scene, it's typically over. Despite the fact that it's happened, and folks don't really have an incentive to hand over any video evidence that could be used to impose accountability. So that's what we're interested in looking at. But maybe Mr. Rivero, if we could follow up with Sergeant Wolf, or I might just reach out directly to the chief about it and ask him who's the best person in the department. Does anybody even have time? Is it a captain to be looking into this? But I think it's still pretty important.
Chair Tibbetts, if I may. So, and then quickly regarding Roseland, the sideshows have slowed down quite a bit if we compare them to the months of May and June. We did schedule a couple of meetings with Lieutenant Conker, the new beat sergeant of the area, and many of the merchants, so they could bring awareness and know who to call in the event of sideshows and such. but there's been a decrease definitely. And the Santa Rosa PD has also stepped up patrolling the area, and the speed radar trailers have been deployed at various locations. Not that they do very much, but they do deter, some of this bad behavior at times.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. All right. Oh, Councilmember Sawyer.
Yeah, just briefly, some of these things can behave like fads, and maybe that's part of some of the reduction anyway. I was just as a side note, I was watching television the other night, and there was a commercial for Dodge, and they were using as part of their advertising campaign a Dodge in the middle of a single sideshow. I mean, I was a little shocked. Actually, well, I shouldn't be. Given what it comes across television these days, but to use an illegal behavior as a way to sell a car seemed to be just beyond the pale. I was taken aback. It was, it was clear what they were saying is if you want to put on a good show, buy a Dodge. And it was just, just thought I'd throw that out there. There are large corporations encouraging the behavior, and that's really unfortunate.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawyer. We'll move to public comment on item 3.3, public safety update. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak at this time?
Yes, there are. Gig Haito, hold on just one moment and we'll allow you to unmute.
Yes, do you hear me?
Good morning.
We hear you.
Hi, it's Gig Hideout, Burbank Gardens neighborhood. Just want to give a quick update on our neighborhood watch, which is always active. We do have a core group of individuals who stay vigilant, but this year we have been able to get a lot of other residents to help when needed. We use Nextdoor and emails, and people have been coming and helping us, and it's been very effective. We use nonviolent conflict resolution, and the more people who help us, the better it does. So we've been able to keep the graffiti down whenever that occurs, which is continuous. It's removed immediately, and then the taggers don't, they get discouraged and don't repeat until the next one comes along, but it's way down from what it used to be. So that's good news. I don't have like formal data, but it does seem like bicycle thefts are down, and thefts of packages off porches are also seem to be down. So that's good. Have not seen any drug dealers, no prostitutes. People tripping on meth still happens, but it seems like less than before. Have not seen any people nodding out on heroin. And we have, of course, there's homeless people coming in, new transients, but we have not as much as I expected for this summer. So, they come and they go. As far as encampments, we have had some issues, but that's where we all teamed up together and prevented that from happening. So we've been very effective about that. And so between Juilliard Park neighborhood and Burbank Gardens neighborhood, Juilliard Park is just looking beautiful. Families strolling around with children, singles, women by themselves, dog walkers, joggers, quinceañera photos. It's just really a good scene, a happy scene, and we're staying on top of everything. So, come on down, check it out. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Gig. Madam Secretary, do we have any others wishing to speak at this time?
We have no additional hands raised at this time.
Okay, great. Bringing it back to the subcommittee. Any last questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3.4, maintenance of Courthouse Square update. Tim Finnegan, Parks Crew Superintendent.
Good morning. Good morning, Board Chair Tibbetts and Council Member Sawyer. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to the Railroad Square Association and the Downtown Association for the volunteers and the work that everybody's putting into the painting, the graffiti. It's definitely helped out our crews, maintain the areas because they can now do a little bit more fine tuning of the areas and be able to concentrate on other areas that definitely need help as well. So I just want to say thank you to all that work. And as a department, we want to support those activities wherever we can. So if you could reach out to me or our parks crew so they can get me the information. We definitely want to support the volunteers and what they're trying to do because, again, with them helping us out, it just allows us to be able to focus on other areas. So whatever we can do to help out, please feel free to reach out to our department and to me. We've been able to continue on our weekly cleanings of the area, Courthouse Square and other park areas. We have been continuing our weekly graffiti abatement down the Greenway. Last month, we spent 80 hours cleaning graffiti on the Greenway. Of that, 30 hours was doing some pressure washing where we couldn't get it off, doing it the old-fashioned way of scrubbing it. So we are staying up on that. Next month, we will be getting back to hopefully doing a more regular cleaning of the square with a pressure washer. Currently, pressure washing is still allowed under the current guidelines of our drought, as long as it involves the safety aspect of it. And we did get clarification from the water department that cleaning, disinfecting is a safety issue. So we are still able to do that. As things change, that might change that, but we are still able to do pressure washing and collecting the water given the current drought conditions. We are going to be able to start doing again more regular scheduled maintenance of things. We have finished up our weed abatement, our fire-related weed abatement across the city. There's still some spots that we need to get back to and do a little bit of touch-up, but that's going to allow some of our crews to get back into their regular duties on a more regular basis. And so we will be able to schedule some of these things that we've done in the past moving forward. With that, now with that being completed, now our focus has changed to the drought and the water usage within our parks, Courthouse Square and the surrounding parks. We have been able to keep an eye on our irrigation and do the adjustments. We've been getting a lot of support from the water efficiency department and the water. They have been able to give us advice and give us some guidance and help us deal with a few problems that we've been having in our parks irrigation. And the water department, they have a remote sensor that will automatically inform us or inform them, which will in turn inform us of any waste of water, or any continuous use of water, so we can address those as soon as possible. So that which allows us, to be more efficient with our water and still provide some green turf and in our parks, Courthouse Square, Depot Park, and the surrounding parks. So it's been a great, they've been a great support to us in that effort. And hopefully we can hold the line, if you will. It's not going to get any easier in the next few months, but we are definitely going to do everything we can to keep the turf healthy and looking green, as long as we have water to do it with. So it's been something that, again, our focus and attention has been towards that. So as soon as we learn about problems or know that we can make some improvements, we're right on it. Looking forward, we are going to be scheduling some cone removal from the bunya trees and Courthouse Square, as well as Depot Park. That's done every few years, and it's coming due again. So we will be getting that scheduled coming up in the next month, and I will inform the group or the two associations when that happens or when that's scheduled, and make sure it's not going to interfere with any events and so forth that might be scheduled. So that's going to be happening here in the next month. Park planning, Jen Santos has started looking at and putting together a redesign for Fremont Park. It's just in the beginning stages. She has met with possible designers to get their ideas and feedback. That's just in the beginning, so I don't necessarily have a lot of information on that, other than the process has started. They are looking at designers and getting some concepts down, and I'm sure she'll be reaching out to the public for comments and input once things start getting more firmed up and something on a piece of paper to start the conversations. But that has started, and which would be great, because that park did take a big hit from the encampment from last year, and it's just at this point, given the work that needs to be done on it, redesigning and making those things function like the way they're supposed to be. This is probably the best thing for that park. It is still on the queue to do the tree work at Depot Park. It's still on my list. So as we get funds and time to be able to do that work, that will happen. A lot of our tree priorities have been emergency tree work and things of hazard, and so we will look at whether, again, if we can do that internally with our staff, not having a tree crew, but being able at least do some of the work. And then if that doesn't transpire, then our contractor would have to be brought in to do it. But again, that's still on our list of things that need to do as far as tree work within our parks. And it's interesting that talking about the holidays and everything coming up, it's I guess it's that time to start thinking of that. So I appreciate the information on the future plans and events of the tree lighting and so forth, and that will be something that will need to be addressed moving forward to make sure those all function correctly. So if there's any questions?
It's like Councilmember Sawyer.
No questions, just thanks. Great job.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. Seeing no other questions or comments, let's move to public comment. Are there any comments from the public at this time?
There are no raised hands at this time.
Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Any final questions, comments? Seeing none, yes, thank you very much, Mr. Finnegan. Appreciate everything that you're doing. We will move now on to item 3.5, permitted events and public art update. Tara Thompson, Arts and Culture Manager.
Good morning, Chair Tibbetts and Member Sawyer and members of the public and staff. I'm Tara Thompson, Arts and Culture Manager, and I can provide a brief update on permitted events in the downtown area, as well as the public art program activities in the downtown area. So for events, since the last downtown subcommittee meeting was held in May, the state and county, I'm sure as you are all aware, have moved beyond the blueprint tier system for reopening. And so that meant restrictions on outdoor gatherings were lifted. The state only provided guidance for gatherings it called mega events, which were defined as having 10,000 or more people at an outdoor event. Most, or if not all, of the events that are permitted in the downtown area, at least currently, are well under that 10,000 person limit. So there essentially are no additional guidelines for outdoor events at this time, other than to follow whatever current state and local recommendations there are. The city, so that meant that the city resumed issuing special event permits for the larger events shortly thereafter, by the end of June. And there have been continuing activities, of course, as Cadence mentioned, downtown, centered in Courthouse Square under the permit that was issued to the Chamber of Commerce for the Open and Out program. The first additional event outside of that permit that was permitted was the Oaxaca in the Wine Country Festival, which took place on August 1st. And the next permitted large event in the downtown area will be the Santa Rosa Marathon, taking place on August 28th and 29th. And then the next one on the calendar so far is the Outfest Wine Festival and National Coming Out Day on October 9th and 10th. There may be additional fall events that we'll get applications for, but those are the only ones that we are currently looking at permitting at this time. In terms of the arts program, I have a few updates there. As I mentioned at the last meeting in May, the ASAWA panels for the fountain in Courthouse Square, I reported on that their material, the original panel material, was rapidly deteriorating and threatening the structural integrity, even with a proposed steel support structure. So at the time, there was an interest in casting the panels in a more permanent material such as bronze. We have actually taken those next steps, working with our conservator, the family of Ruth ASAWA, a foundry, and engineers, as well as the Hugh Futrell Corporation, which is building the fountain, all to come to the point of making a recommendation to the Art and Public Places Committee that the panels should be cast in bronze. That recommendation was approved just this week on Monday. So we are getting closer to being able to see that happen. And I hope to provide more updates soon at the next meeting on our progress there. In terms of other maintenance and conservation, the ZAG light piece on the pedestrian bridge over the Prince Memorial Greenway Creek area was vandalized. Unfortunately, someone actually cut the cables between some of the light components. So we are working with the artist and a conservator, as well as a fabricator, to figure out a more vandal-proof way to install the piece on the bridge. So that should be addressed sometime soon with a revised design to keep it safer than it was originally. For the 5th Street parking garage project, the 3 finalist designs are now available to view on our website at srcity.org/5th Street Garage Art. You can also get to it by just going to our main site, srcity.org/arts. And there's a link to take the art survey. So you can actually look at those 3 finalist designs and then tell us what you think through the survey. And as of today, we've received just a total overwhelming response, over 2,300 responses to that survey so far. And of course, those responses will be considered by the selection panel when identifying the artist to recommend to the Art and Public Places Committee for approval. And then lastly, for the Imagine Art in Courthouse Square project, the community engagement process to collect text for the artworks piece, the artwork itself, we finally launched that outreach in July, and hopefully you've seen some of it. The questions that we're asking are meant to prompt responses that will generate the types of words and phrases to be placed on the artwork itself. So we worked with an advisory committee to come up with that language and then formatted it into a general survey, as well as a youth participation flyer, which was distributed to various summer camps. There's also postcards and other social media and email outreach is being done as well. The artist and her team is working with the Office of Community Engagement to do targeted outreach to community and neighborhood groups to invite participation that represents the diversity of Santa Rosa as well. One way to participate, which is encouraged for everyone on this call as well, is to go ahead and take the online survey, which you can find at srcity.org/imagineart. So we anticipate keeping this campaign open for another few weeks and then reconvening our advisory committee to come up with a final list of words and phrases to be recommended to the Art and Public Places Committee and back to the artist. So that's my update for today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Any questions from the subcommittee?
I do, Jack. I'm curious, and thank you, Tara, for your report. There's a lot going on, as there always is. It's sometimes quiet, but it's speaks loudly about the dedication that we have to art. I look forward to the murals on the parking garages. There's some really great proposals. Appreciate that. I'm curious about the light, the piece on the bridge, the light piece on the bridge. Does our contract with the artist require us to continually continue to figure out ways to defend this piece from vandals? And as much as I hate to raise the white flag and say the vandals won, maybe do we have an obligation to maintain that piece at that location? And if not, could we retire the piece for a while until we find a more appropriate spot that is more visible, that might not lend itself so much to these crazy vandals that are so disappointing and well, I have other words for it, but vandalism of this nature, especially when it comes to art pieces, really gets under my skin. So I'm wondering if there might be another appropriate location for this piece that would not be so vulnerable to vandals, and what our contract requires.
Yes, thank you for the question. So the piece was actually just recently, less than a year ago, installed at its current location. So the original piece was down by the Vineyard Creek Hotel, or now the Hyatt Hotel, as you recall. It was privately commissioned. Right. It's gone through a long saga of being in disrepair, being abandoned, not really having anyone claiming ownership over it. And so, just a few years ago, it was essentially adopted into the public art program, and funds were put towards relocating it and redesigning it to be put on the bridge that it's on now, which is right near Prince Gateway Park. Mm-hmm. So closer, it's a little bit more visible. There's more eyes on it. There still have been a lot of, activity in that area that I think is maybe related to its vandalism. The splash pad hasn't been open. There hasn't been like the family presence, I think, that we were all kind of hoping would return. I think those are some of the just considerations there. However, the artist designed the piece specifically for the pedestrian bridge. And so we were hoping that location would be better than its original location on an identical bridge much farther down the Greenway where there's less eyes on it. So those were all definitely considerations originally when we relocated it. But as I said, it was just installed just under a year ago at this location with a much more substantial installation system than the original, but obviously still not adequate. The contract with the artist essentially obligates the city to offer back to the artist the opportunity to assist in repairing the piece should it need repair. But we can also opt to work with our conservator, our conservation firm, or in tandem, do them kind of collaboratively. I think that in this case, we want to take that approach to make sure that the conservators are coming up with the most essentially bulletproof way of keeping it on that bridge in that location, so that we can hopefully only need to do, regular cleaning and other kind of normal maintenance as we move forward. So the actual approach we're looking at this point is extruding a certain type of metal channel that each light component would fit in with every single cable and connection covered underneath the channel, and then attaching that to the bridge so there's nothing exposed whatsoever. It should be rather vandal-proof at that point, extremely vandal-proof at that point, but we have some prototypes to kind of work out and figure out if that approach is going to work. So yes, I understand your concerns and suggestions. I think that at this point, we are committed to keeping the piece there. We just want to make sure that the approach we take right now will last on into the future.
Well, I appreciate that. And there may be, in the years that follow today, an opportunity, especially with the possibility of daylighting Santa Rosa Creek. There may be a bridge that is right in the center of our of our 3P project, ultimately, potentially, with our City Hall project and having another bridge in the future that might well deserve that kind of attention and that kind of artwork. So a good luck on this next endeavor in trying to protect the piece. What concerns me, I guess, is throwing good money after bad. And if we find that our, regardless of our best efforts to protect that piece, which is a nice piece of art. I mean, it's a fun piece. I think it delights many. But given when it's down because of vandalism, it kind of breaks my heart. So well, I'm more than happy to give a thumbs up on trying yet once again to protect this piece. But if we find that this is not successful, I would very much like to have a conversation about the future placement, even if it is retired for a period of time, waiting for that perfect spot. I'd like to have that conversation because if we were to add up all the time and energy and resources that have been placed to both repair and maintenance of that piece, I would be probably very disappointed by that number. So it's just something to think about in the future, that maybe it might ultimately need a new home. And I'd like to have that conversation when the time comes, if necessary.
Thank you. Understood. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, John. All right, let's take public comment on this item.
We do have a public comment. It's Gig Haito. Hold on just one moment. Gig, you are able to be heard at this time?
Yes. Just a quick question, actually, for Tara. I know you can't go back and forth, but maybe Tara could comment after. I've had someone ask me, well, how do you find out what the events are happening in Courthouse Square? So my question is the marketing and promotion of the events, is that strictly the responsibility of the event coordinator, or are there any public or social media or any kind of media outlets where you can find out what's happening at Courthouse Square? That's all. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I apologize. There are no additional hands raised at this time.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the subcommittee. I actually see that Councilmember Sawyer has stepped away, and I need to as well. So I'm going to just call a quick recess to make sure we have quorum. Let's recess until 9:45. Does that work for you, Madam Secretary?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're back. So I believe we completed public comment at this time. I will ask for it one more time just to be safe. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no additional raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. Bringing it back to the subcommittee. Councilmember Sawyer, Mr. Rivero, do either of you have any questions or follow-up comments?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thanks very much. Let's move on to our next item. That is item 3.6, parking program update. Kim Nadeau, parking manager.
Morning, everybody. I wanted to start out by thanking Tara and her team for work on the art project at the Fifth Street Garage. We are super excited about that project coming to fruition. Looking back on June 22nd, Council approved extending the existing parking fee reductions through December 31st of this year, as Cadence had mentioned. I just wanted to remind folks that that means the first hour is free in all 5 garages. Garage parking is free after 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Garage parking is free on Saturday and Sundays. We also have a free mobile payment parking session where you can receive a credit of up to $3.15 value using the Passport parking app at a parking meter and using the code PARKSR. And lastly, meter reservation fees are waived for temporary parklets. And all of that does come at a cost to the parking fund. The estimated revenue reduction for the last fiscal year due to these parking discounts is $455,000, and an additional $400,000 is projected in revenue losses through the end of this year. Our operation and maintenance expenditures exceeded revenues last fiscal year by $1.3 million, dropping the available fund balance to $6.6 million on June 30th of 2021. Parking activity has been slowly rebounding since February when restrictions began to ease. June and July have been the best months for parking activity since COVID hit. Transactions are down 38% over pre-COVID numbers. Permit sales are down by about a third, and revenue is down 40% compared to pre-COVID times. The fund balance is expected to drop to $5 million on June 30th of 2022. And as I've noted before, there are over $20 million in identified CIP projects over the next 8 to 10 years. So there was going to be a need to find additional revenue in order to fund those projects to extend the life of the parking assets. And speaking of extending the life of those assets, we do have a garage repair work underway right now in 4 of our garages. Those projects were identified in the 10-year asset management plan, which is conducted and provided by a structural engineering firm that specializes in garages. This work is expected to be done in October, and we're also moving forward with elevator modernization at the First Street Garage. And then we also have new parking equipment that's going in the garages, the gates, the payment equipment, the back office, do all of that. The work is complete at the 7th Street Garage and the 5th Street Garage, and is more than halfway completed at the D Street Garage. Next up will be the 3rd Street Garage, which is going to require that garage to be closed for a brief period of time. It'll be closed on August 21st and 22nd because of the design of that garage. There's only one entrance and one exit lane. So it makes it impossible for them to do work in the lanes without closing the garage. We have notified all the permit holders and have also coordinated with Cadence, so the Metro Chamber is aware of that closure as well. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kevin Buchanan, who is the admin analyst for parking, who is going to give a short presentation on the validation options that are available with our new equipment. And then, I can either take questions now, or we can wait until after Kevin is done and then answer any questions that you may have.
Take Kevin's presentation.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Buchanan. I'm the admin analyst in parking. Go ahead and next slide, please. The parking division has been offering a validation coupon swap for businesses that have our, at this point now, old validation tickets that we've been selling for years. These are the 100-pack of magnetic stripe-based tickets that businesses can buy and hand to parkers to validate their parking. We recognize with all the shelter in place restrictions that happened last year, that businesses haven't had a chance to probably use those validations, which have expired probably at this point. So we've been reaching out to businesses that have purchased from us and have been coordinating with the Metro Chamber, who also buys a lot of these validation coupons. But if any business is listening and they have some in their store or in their office, we are swapping them out free of charge if they expired in March of 2020 or more recently. And our contact information is there. So we're happy to work with businesses on that. Next slide. As Kim mentioned, this garage project has left us in a bit of an in-between state right now, because the old magnetic vouchers that we have been selling for years and years are now only working in the 3rd and 1st Street garages, and the new equipment is based on a barcode voucher. So the 7th, 5th, and D Street garages essentially have a new type of voucher. And so it could be confusing for a parker, because they could inadvertently get the wrong voucher at this point, because we're not fully transitioned to the new type. And so we're happy to talk to businesses kind of about this situation. In the next month or so, we should have all of the garages on our new equipment, and then the magnetic vouchers at that point won't work anywhere, and everything would be on this new barcode voucher. Go ahead and next slide. With this new equipment, we do have a new option of validating parking that will be coming up pretty soon here, where if businesses want, they could work with us to have an online account where they could enter a parker's ticket number through a website, and that would validate their ticket. This is a quick screenshot showing just of what the website looks like. It's a simple, like, enter a 6-digit number, hit submit, and it electronically validates a person's ticket. Next slide. Oh, that's kind of, yeah, the finish of how to validate. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I wanted to list some of the benefits of why a business may want to consider that. Number one, you can't inadvertently lose an online validation for both the customer and the business. I don't know if any businesses have bought our 100 packs and then misplaced them and basically lost those validations. Also, I think there are situations where a business may hand a parker a validation because they want to validate someone's parking, but because of all of the current free parking options in garages, a parker may not actually need that validation. And so one benefit of the online validation is if you enter their ticket number and then the parker goes to leave and they leave during free periods of time, your account isn't charged. And so you only really are charged when a person needs to pay to leave. Also, since this is just kind of putting money into an account, we are able to refund that back to businesses. And there's a lot of options for each business to customize how much they want to validate, whether that's $1, which is kind of the typical tickets that people hand out now, or you could do an all-day validation, or really anything in between. And also when you do it online, you have access to reports to see, usage of issuing these online validations. So that's kind of a coming soon in the next couple of months once all of the garages are available. If there are any businesses that that sounds appealing, please reach out to us and we can begin discussing how to do that. I'm sure we'll be giving more information to the Metro Chamber and our kind of heavy validation users in the coming months on that. Next slide. And Kim mentioned this, but there are some other ways to validate. One is businesses can work directly with our mobile payment provider passport to validate any parker who uses the passport. That is something that we would kind of help put a business in touch with Passport to do. And then, as Kim mentioned, there's the Park SR promo code that's available as a one-time discount for people who are using the Passport app. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll end there.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions from the subcommittee?
Not yet. I figure I'll have some in the future, but nothing yet.
Okay. Let's, Raphael, any questions, comments on this item?
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, let's take public comment.
We do have one hand raised for public comment. One moment. Lynn, you will be able to speak. Do you see the timer on your screen?
Okay.
Okay, your timer starts now.
Okay, first I'd like to say kudos to the gentleman that was reporting on Burbank Gardens Association. I just want to say the Juilliard Park looks great and it feels very welcoming. So kudos to what those neighbors are doing. Regarding parking, I believe people have been trained to stay away from downtown, to shop and dine elsewhere in the evening because they have to pay to park during the day. Free parking is readily available everywhere but downtown. We dined at the Falafel restaurant on 4th Street last Friday night. And while we were there, we saw at most 20 people walk by. And this was Friday night on 4th Street in the summer in a beautiful evening. Of course, we want to tip the balance and bring paying customers downtown. Until we do, homeless and the bicycle gangs will continue to occupy, which is what they're doing. And they are driving regular people away. I believe the way to reverse this is to liberate downtown, make parking free all day, and welcome people back to the heart of our city. Thank you.
There are no other hands raised for public comment.
Okay, seeing no other hands raised, I'll bring it back to the subcommittee for any final questions or comments. I'll make one quick comment. It is not entirely related to the subject matter, but I think it is just enough to make it. And that is Director Nadeau. One thing that would be great is if this subcommittee could get a comprehensive look at your department's budget. I don't know how Councilmember Sawyer feels about it, but the way that I feel is that we get a lot of information and a lot of requests from the public to delay instituting fees or roll back fees. And you've been really amazing, in my opinion, at responding to the public's need. But I feel like I've been hearing more about deferred maintenance costs, costs to the fund balance, and requests from the public that I'm starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I just need that kind of edification, that comprehensive look at the parking department to see what is or isn't there in terms of what we're able to do in the future. And what I'd like is that it doesn't have to be necessarily the next meeting, because I know you've got a lot on your plate, but sometime over the course of the next few months, just getting a presentation on what your anticipated expenses are versus income and fund balance and deferred maintenance, And the reason why I would ask for it here is so that members of the downtown, of the public, can get that information also. Councilmember Sawyer, you unmuted.
Yeah, so thanks, Jack. I think this would be the appropriate committee to see an overview, kind of, and as simplistic as it can be, because it is complex. People, oftentimes, our residents mention the word free parking. That is an oxymoron. Even in Montgomery Village, the merchants all pay for the parking that is free. They all pay through their rent and their assessments. So, you know, it's the deferred maintenance has to be paid somehow. If it's not paid by the users, which it currently is paid by the general public and put on the general fund. So we're paying for it one way or another. And right now our model is that the users pay for the parking and those meters subsidize the garages, of which we have 5. And they're expensive to maintain. There's no other city in this county that has this. One city has 1 garage, that's Petaluma. Otherwise, there are no garages in Sonoma County other than the ones in Santa Rosa. So even having some basic knowledge about why we charge for parking would be perhaps a good reason to have an item on our agenda. One could speak for days about the challenges and the realities of parking, and why we have to charge and why we've been charging for decades. So if we could get a kind of an overview of why we charge, where the money goes, where it comes from, how we use it, I think that would be as many. We can never say it enough, and we've said it many times. But there's always value educating the community about why we charge for parking in downtown Santa Rosa. One of these days, it will be just it will no longer be an irritant. It'll just be part of what we do, like when we go to large popular cities and have to pay for parking. But we don't have that energy yet in our downtown, like San Francisco does, for instance. We are hardly San Francisco, nor do we want to be. So I think kind of a parking 101 would be a valuable item on our agenda in the future, when we could put together something that is easily digestible and understandable to the community. I believe it would be valuable, and like the individual that just made their comments about the making parking free in downtown Santa Rosa. Like I said, it's never completely free. Someone's going to pay for it one way or another. So education is key when it comes to understanding our realities when it comes to parking.
Thank you, Councilmember Sawyer. Thank you, Director Nadeau and Mr. Buchanan. We're going to move on to our next and final item, which I believe is you, Mr. Rivera, on day and time change.
Yes, so it came to our attention that Thursdays are sometimes a little bit difficult in terms of conducting this meeting. So there is some appetite to entertain the meeting on Tuesdays or switching it to Tuesdays. And I understand that Council Member Fleming is in support of that. So I wanted to get a temperature check in regards to the possibility of switching these meetings to Tuesdays. I understand that as a city council, the presentations and meetings and such, but entertaining the meetings on Tuesdays could potentially sort of fill the rest of your day if we do hold them early enough, starting possibly at 8:30.
I defer to John. I'm good with whatever time.
Yeah, I'm okay with the change. Have we spoken to the rest of the affected staff to see how Tuesdays work for them?
We have not, but I'll get the communication out there with proposed change and see what the temperature is, and then I will communicate with you. It doesn't necessarily mean that we would start immediately, meaning next month, but we could potentially see that date change in the next couple of months or so in the next upcoming meetings. So I'll definitely keep you up to date and email you and let you know how the response has been. But I think most of the people will be flexible to doing so on Tuesdays.
I mean, there are never perfect days or times for meetings, and we all are faced with conflicts on occasion. So I'm more than happy to give the change a shot and see if we can relieve some of the pressure on those that find it difficult to make it on the Thursday. So I'm more than willing to consider the change.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Rivero. I'm fine with Tuesdays, but I think John brings up a good point. We should talk to all of your contemporaries to make sure that it's not a double whammy. If they've got to give a presentation to us, then also the council later in the day. But happy to support whatever you need.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. I am pretty sure that wraps up the meeting. Let me yep, it does. We're on to item 4, adjournment. Thanks to everyone for being here today. Have a great day.